bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's Friday. It is the last day of January in 2020. It's a busy Friday. It's a hectic Friday. It's already been hectic. One of those days, John.
That's a word to use. With
There's a bunch of words
today
actually,
being,
but you know.
Yes. But
yes.
no, you got to do some stuff before the show happened. We've had some folks on the timeline who are requesting SDH gear and how to get it. So we have promo opportunities. We have programming coming up. We have stuff. Bottom line.
Yes, and I'm going to go off the board with a difficult decision that I had to make to start the show. So, we don't get into the music as much as we have at times lately because there's so much happening right now. But, we like to throw a music on this day kind of conversation into the show from time to time. Yes. And if you haven't been following over at soccerdownhere.net, we post up a morning, we call it the biscuits and gravy, kind of a morning post, a couple things to read that have piqued my interest, and I usually go with a song of the day there. And it's almost always somebody whose birthday it is. Now, today, this was difficult, and it's probably why the show started a couple minutes late, because there was some challenging ones. A couple things. I usually go with the singer of a band.
Yeah.
And it's no offense to drummers. It's no offense to bass players. Sometimes the guitarist, if they're kind of known as the leader of the band. But usually
like a Dave Grohl situation.
Well, if it's Dave Grohl's birthday, I'm going Foo Fighters, though. I'm not going Nirvana. That's a different one. I'm talking about, like, typically you're going to go with the most high-profile person in the band. And if it's their birthday, okay, they're under consideration. And then also, it's a great site called thisdayinmusic.com. And they will have when stuff goes to number one in the U.S. or in the U.K. or when a song's recorded or when an album's recorded. So sometimes there's some really interesting things there. Today is by far the most difficult day to pick it down to a song of the day.
Okay, so before you announce which one you did, who were your contenders before you broke it down?
Okay, the one I went with was because specifically of a live performance that this artist did that kind of won me back over to what he's all about. And I went with Justin Timberlake, and it was specifically because of the performance he did with Chris Stapleton at the CMAs where they did Tennessee Whiskey, Chris Stapleton song, and they did Drink You Away, the Justin Timberlake song. Okay. I honestly didn't know the Timberlake song because I'd kind of gotten away from his stuff there for a while, and it's an incredible song, and it was an incredible performance with the two of them, and then I kind of came back around. Okay, so that was the one I picked, and it was more personal because of that performance specifically. The other birthdays that were in the mix, Marcus Mumford, lead singer of Mumford & Sons. Great band. Plenty of great songs to pick from. You like Mumford & Sons, don't you?
Red Rocks, yes.
Okay, good. That's a band past the 80s that John likes. I'm down. I like it.
Salute!
Okay, Johnny Rotten, birthday today, lead singer of the Sex Pistols and of Public Image Limited. So you had quite a few different options there.
Yep.
Many other days, that would have been one I would have went with. I like some old classic punk, and I like PIL as well.
Yes.
Then on just the, like stuff going to number one on this day, one of my all-time favorite songs, I Want You Back, Jackson 5, went to number one on the U.S. singles chart on this day.
Yes.
Massive. Another one of my all-time favorite songs went to number one on the singles chart this day in 1981. The Tide is High, Blondie.
Check.
Awesome band. This one didn't go to number one, but it is another one of my favorite songs that went into the UK charts on this day. Radio Gaga, Queen.
Oh, see. All right.
1984.
Yes. That would have probably been where I went because
really? After
of
all that other stuff, that's where you're going to go?
I'm a child of the '80s, and it's because of the Live Aid performance.
Yeah, no, that's
that
amazing.
has elevated the I guess the notice of that particular song on its own. Tremendous song, but now because of the Live Aid performance, you're hearing that whole block from Queen come back around, and folks are listening to that 20 to 25 minutes and
you're
thinking
hearing that block because of Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie. You're not hearing it because of the Live Aid performance from '85. That was just a feature in the movie.
I always go back and listen to it, and Radio Gaga is where I always drift back to.
Of course, but seeing that in the movie is what brought me back to that, and to that song specifically, because that live performance elevates the song. So that was the difficult decision I had on the song of the day, and I don't think you really could have went wrong with any of those. I mean, you could have picked quite a few things from the Sex Pistols. I would have probably leaned to "This Is Not a Love Song" by Public Image Limited for the Johnny Rotten song. Mm-hmm. Mumford and Sons. I don't know what song I would have picked, because I like them, but there's not one song that jumps out to me that I would be, I have to pick this.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing at all, but it's just I would have had to think about it, so I didn't get to that point.
They have their set chords, they have their set rhythms, and it's like, okay, which part of this Mumford block do I like more than the other?
It's a little bit different for me, but okay. I get more on the lyrics, and more lyrics are going to put it over the top for me.
Gotcha.
I could have picked Blondie, could have picked Jackson 5, could have went with either one of those. That would have been just fine because they're two of my favorite songs. I could have picked like 5 or 6 different Timberlake songs, but that was the first thing that came to mind, and that's what you get in the Biscuits and Gravy, the Chris Stapleton live performance with Timberlake. So there you go. There's a completely non-soccer related segment to open the show.
Yeah, it would have been probably
since it's soccer down here.
Yeah, no, for me it probably would have been Queen Blondie PIL 1 2 3.
Okay, let's talk soccer now.
Okay, let's talk soccer now.
Fill us in on what's going on in Nashville with all of the stadium drama and political.
Dear.
This probably needs a new version of the Nashville TV show focused on the politics of Nashville, not the music scene, because this thing's ugly.
Yeah. You want to start with the statement from Mayor John Cooper, or do you want to go to the statement from the league?
Well, the league statement came out first, so let's go in the order that they came out so you kind of understand that side of it. Go with the league statement first.
Okay. Let's see. So do you have it in front of you? Because all I'm getting is the mayor.
Ay, Dios mío.
Wait, hang on. I got it. I got
it.
I'm here. And now, how much of this do you want? Because it's a 5-paragraph essay.
All right.
I'm going to read it quickly.
You handle them. Hold on. You get the mayor prepared. I will drill this down.
Edit down the missive from the league and Nashville SC.
All right. So the basics of this stadium deal was done. That was a big part of getting the team into Nashville, was building the stadium at the fairgrounds. The mayor at the time pushed all of that through. Now, the league and Nashville SC issued a statement yesterday because the stadium project has been held up by the current mayor, John Cooper. From the statement by the league and Nashville SC, and it was a joint statement. Earlier today, we met with Mayor John Cooper at Major League Soccer's office in New York City to discuss the status of a Nashville SC stadium project. The new stadium and ancillary development have very broad support throughout Nashville and has been overwhelmingly approved multiple times by Metro Council, and that's 100% true. Despite that, Mayor Cooper has not provided approval to begin the demolition to move forward with the stadium project. So, for the past 4 months, Nashville SC has worked to make the stadium deal even better and has proposed a number of new solutions to satisfy his concerns. Even with those proposed new solutions, the mayor today refused to commit to move forward with the demolition and the approved stadium plan. During today's meeting, MLS Commissioner Don Garber made it clear to Mayor Cooper that Major League Soccer would not have awarded Nashville an expansion team without the commitment made by the city to build a soccer stadium at the fairgrounds. The mayor's continued refusal to proceed is a deep disappointment to Nashville SC and MLS. Nashville SC has agreed to work with the mayor's office over the next week to advance the discussions and finalize a plan to begin the stadium construction project. We hope for a mutually agreeable solution and expect to have an update regarding the project by February 6th. There's a couple key elements here because this is very different than other stadium situations. And I've seen people try to lump this together. I've seen people try to say, well, MLS has allowed teams to play without having a stadium before. This is a Nashville thing. Leave everything else out of it because you're complicating it. The part that is key here to know, it's got support and it's been approved multiple times in the Metro Council. Mm-hmm. It should be signed off on because it's been approved.
Yep.
Now, you can say that it's not a good deal. You can say whatever. That's not the issue here. This is not at the debate before the vote. The vote's been done. And there's been multiple votes on different elements, and it's passed, and everything is supposed to have started by now. So this isn't something that Nashville SC did. This isn't something that Major League Soccer did. This is a political issue in Nashville that they're caught in because we'll get the mayor's statement now, but then we've got to give you the backstory because there's a huge backstory to this.
Yep. From the office of Mayor John Cooper, quote, "Since entering office 4 months ago, I've worked toward a complete solution for the fairgrounds that is both financially sustainable and results in a successful unified site plan. This past week, I met with racing advocates as well as MLS. I appreciate MLS and its advocacy for professional soccer in Nashville. I also appreciate all parties are working together to improve the plan for the entire fairground, both in design and financing. I will continue to chart a path forward that makes good financial sense for all of Nashville's taxpayers," end quote.
The question that comes up, and if you're not paying attention to all of the details, I understand why you're first going to go to the basic issues that come up with a stadium debate. The question that comes up for me, knowing the background here, is, so he's going to do all that. Is he the dictator of Nashville, or is he the mayor?
Last time I checked, he was an elected official.
Yeah, the city council's approved this
multiple
times.
Yeah.
And I don't know the rules of how Nashville governs, and I know different cities have different situations, but he's basically going against what the city council has already voted to approve multiple times.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, and there's a lot of debate in Nashville about the legality of that. Now, there's bigger things in this, and this is important because Mayor Cooper was not the mayor when this plan came together and when Nashville was awarded an MLS team. Mayor Cooper was not in place, and the reason why Mayor Cooper is now in place has added to that drama.
And Martha Berry, if I remember the situation, is that she was misappropriating city funds and having an affair with the head of her security force, using those funds as personal funds. And then basically she resigned from office. So she was the one who had spearheaded everything to bring Major League Soccer to Nashville. And with I'm trying to figure out the right word to say. I'm just going to say the misappropriation of funds and all of the fallout from that. She has left public service in the city of Nashville, and now it is up to the current mayor, and he is none too happy, John Cooper, with what's been going on.
Yeah, so Barry was having the extramarital affair with a Nashville police sergeant who was in charge of her security detail. There were extended business trips, just the two of them, different activities, hundreds of overtime hours that the police sergeant racked up. Now, a report from the Metro Auditor showed later that there were only 13 of the overtime hours that were all but 13 of the overtime hours were independently verified as within Metro policies. But this did not go over very well in a lot of different ways. And the mayor resigned, and it was part of a plea agreement on it because there was felony theft charges. I mean, it was ugly. So that was the mayor who helped push this through and really worked hard to bring soccer to Nashville, professional soccer at this level. And now it almost feels a little bit like, well, if that was something that Mayor Megan Barry wanted, then we don't want it from the new mayor's office. And it's a really complicated situation, and I think you have to look at the big picture before you start firing off takes about. I've seen speculation that the team's going to move, which I don't think that the MLS statement led you to believe that. They did say, and it's important that it's in there, if you hadn't approved that stadium project, they would not have come to Nashville. Now, people will say, well, Atlanta plays in an NFL stadium. Well, New York City plays in a baseball stadium, and they were supposed to build one. And people will now say, well, Charlotte's approved to play in an NFL stadium, and they came in after Nashville, so what's the problem? I'm going to assume a couple things. One, just the overall package was what earned Nashville the expansion bid when they got it, and they haven't delivered on that package, and it's not that their fault because they're fighting the politics, and things were approved, so it's not even the Miami situation. Like, it was actually approved, and then now it's still being held up. The other that I think is safe to guess is that Nissan Stadium was not viewed in the same way that Bank of America Stadium is in Charlotte, which also had to undergo a lot of different upgrades to be approved. And that was part of the, once it sounded like Charlotte was going to get a team, it was this funding or this agreement has to be in place before we officially award it because the stadium's not suitable right now. With these additions, it will be. Now, that wasn't on the table for Nissan. That wasn't the idea for Nissan. Nissan Stadium was temporary. Could it have been? Maybe. There's just no way to know. So that conversation isn't exactly valid in this. Where do we go from here? It's an ugly black eye as Nashville's getting ready to play their first MLS season and preparing for a match in a month. It's not what they need in terms of good publicity and building something. I don't know what the team can actually do at this point other than keep pushing on the things approved and the legality of blocking a vote that has been upheld in multiple ways by the city council, by the Metro Council. I don't know what else the team can do. It's not a situation like some of these others where you're lobbying, you're negotiating, you're doing this, you're doing that. I mean, the deal's done. It's just actually getting it signed off on. Yep.
Required reading for the day is Yu and Jean's article from the Tennessean, and in it, Jean caught up with at-large council member Bob Mendez, and he told the newspaper that, quote, while he appreciates Cooper installing new discipline in how Nashville handles development, it's time for renegotiations on the stadium deal to end. In a statement, for the office of the mayor to have credibility in the future, there has to be some level of continuity between administrations. Fish or cut bait, finish the new deal, or tell us why it fell apart. Councilmember Colby Sledge, whose district includes the fairgrounds, said there's no reason to delay the project one day longer. Quoting Sledge, the Nashville SC Stadium will bring with it a new community gathering place, hundreds of jobs and homes, and a community benefits agreement that ensures this project works for Nashvillians at risk of being left behind, end quote.
That's what really troubled me about the mayor's statement is this thing's been approved. there's a site plan, there's a deal, and it's approved. So he says that he's trying to get a solution that results in a successful unified site plan. That's already done. Now, this is the part that jumps out to me that I think is going to be a big problem for Nashville. Not Nashville SC, Nashville is a city. This past week, I met with racing advocates as well as MLS.
Right.
Is he playing one off the other? Because that's what it sounds like. You got a deal done on building the soccer stadium. Now, we've talked about it before. There's been meetings with groups about, I guess, getting the speedway. That's part of the fairgrounds.
Right.
Back up to full NASCAR specs. I think that was the deal here. It's not like the major circuit level track now. Is that right?
No. It's I think the last thing that they did was Truck Series, and that was a couple of years ago.
So
obviously,
if I'm not mistaken, because I am not a NASCAR guy, it's that's essentially the third tier.
Yeah,
you have the major tier. You have the secondary stock car, and then there's the trucks.
Yes, and then after that, you have other smaller divisions and things like that. But yeah, the last two that I can remember being in Nashville were Truck Series and ARCA, which is like 3 and 4.
So there's been these talks about upgrading the speedway. Now, let's have a very quick conversation about this. You look forward into the future. You're going to spend to upgrade the fairgrounds. You're going to build new things at the fairgrounds and all this. What is doing better than the other one in terms of a sporting industry? Major League Soccer or NASCAR?
I believe it would be the former, sir.
I think so, and I'm not trying to be biased in this way, but I know there's significant issues with NASCAR at the moment. There's been a lot of different problems, and I think they're talking about cutting back on races, and one has a more promising future than the other. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
And that line in the mayor's statement, this past week I met with racing advocates as well as MLS.
Yeah.
That feels like you're playing, well, MLS is going to do this. We've already agreed on this deal. Can you do a better deal for me? And last time I checked, if you're a city that signs an agreement, deal is done, it's approved by the council, and then you go back on your word, one, you're going to have legal ramifications. And two, and they're going to have legal ramifications, I think, from MLS and from the Nashville SC ownership.
Yep.
And two, if you want to do a major deal with the city down the road, are you going to be able to trust them? That's a problem.
Think about what NASCAR has been going through the last handful of years. You're having sponsors who have been a part of racing teams for decades not renewing their contracts. You're having problems filling your fields to the point to where you have trimmed the number of starters in your races. Used to be 42, used to be 40, used to be that even number, and now you're getting 40. You're getting 39. Sometimes, depending on proximity from the East Coast, you're in the mid to high 30s when it comes to number of race cars that are on your NASCAR events. And you have pretty much haves and have-nots, where you have all of the big names who have the long-time sponsorship models, all of the long-time ownership groups. But then you have the ones who are the charters down toward the tail end of the starting grid, the ones 24 through 30 whatever. They're the ones who are the single owner teams who live off of the charters, who are there on weekly bases trying to figure out sponsorship deals and things like that. And there are also the ones who are right there at the end of the starters grid, who basically will start the race, go for a little while, and park the car because they don't want any long-term damage to the car itself, because it's the only resource they have to make any money in that industry. I don't see that happening. You got folks who park their cars. Seriously, they will qualify, they will start the race, and then all of a sudden, 5 to 10 laps in. Now, this is something for those who just casually watch NASCAR. Kind of keep an eye on that.
That blows me away.
For the last couple of years. You've had the field fillers, say 32 to 38 or 32 to 40. You'll have guys 38 to 40 qualify, get the car through spec and inspection, start the race, and then 10 to 20 laps in, oh, we have a mechanical problem. And then they'll park it and go to the garage, and then they're off to the next one. But that's what NASCAR has right now. You're having venues that are, watch the TV coverage. Venues that are empty, tight shots coming from television, trouble selling tickets, trouble maintaining sponsorships, trouble keeping grids together. And you want to tie yourself to that? No offense to NASCAR, because I will watch the big ticket items. I will watch Talladega. I will watch Daytona. I will watch it. But NASCAR has problems. And if you think that NASCAR in and of itself is having these issues, what about the secondary series that shows up on Saturday?
The lower you go,
what about the truck series where you have qualified drivers who are having problems finding sponsors? You've had folks in the NASCAR lower series and in the truck series who have won championships have problems finding sponsors for subsequent years. You want to tie yourself to that in addition to bringing in MLS, who we've seen, and this was going to be my answer to your Friday flashback question, somewhat philosophically. You want to tie yourself to racing instead of Major League Soccer right now? There's a flaw in that logic from the mayor currently. That's just me.
That feels incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah.
And this is specifically from that line in the mayor's statement. Maybe there's more to it. In the past, there's been the issues about other events at the fairgrounds and making sure that they're taken care of. It's been a complicated deal all the way through, but it was approved. And that's what's so frustrating about it, I think, from a soccer perspective, is it's not the drama that other cities have had. This got approved. And now, even after it gets approved, it's, oh, well, no, we don't want to do that. And it's not going to end well if that's the approach that the mayor's office takes. It's not going to end well for anybody. And it's a huge problem for the team. And, we've talked about Nashville SC kind of having a slower start, and the decision to do a USL team for 2 years. Did that maybe, lead to some confusion in the marketplace? Maybe. This is a huge problem, and this just hurts you as you try to build something for the long term. Look, I don't think this would result at all in the team leaving Nashville. I think that kind of speculation is pretty wild, and again, I've seen some people that maybe should know a little bit better, and putting that out there as a valid possibility. I think that is the absolute last resort. I think it's far more likely that the next step, if somehow the mayor is able to block this at the fairgrounds, is whatever that work that needs to go into doing it at Nissan Stadium is what happens. I think then you pivot to a Charlotte kind of thing. Yeah. And that's the approach. And maybe that's what the mayor's trying to force in, but he's doing it by going back on things that have been approved and doing that unilaterally, which is a very dangerous precedent to set. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if that precedent gets set. I'm going to lean to no. I think this is going to end up with the stadium being built at the fairgrounds, and if the team has to get, kind of blackmailed into giving up different things or spending more money at this stage after something's already been approved, I think that'll happen. But I'll be very surprised if there's not a MLS stadium built at the fairgrounds when all is said and done. But it's going to be a bumpy road to get there. And it's something to keep an eye on. And it's going to be a big part of the story leading up to the start of season 25 in MLS and the first game for Nashville on February 29th that Atlanta United will be involved in. The question today, the Friday flashback question, was what is the most important development that MLS has made in its 25 years? And you go back to the landscape of pro soccer in 1995-6. The league was actually announced in 94, originally going to start in 95. They pushed it back a year as they were bringing investors in. They were finalizing things. They wanted it to be done correctly rather than rushed. So it started in 96. But the league was actually formed in late 94. At that point, pro soccer in the United States was in a very, very different place. Teams came and went, basically just because of, not small amounts of money, but because of, lack of revenue, because of not being able to post a $150,000 letter of credit or performance bond, small time stuff. And that's what the game was at that point, professionally. And now it's not. Now it's very different. And it's not just MLS that does that, but I think you can look at the rise of MLS as having an effect on all of it. So love to get your takes. Tweet at us at SoccerDown. Hear some of those most important developments in your mind of MLS over the last 25 years. And it is open-ended because it was by design. I want to see where you take it. Is it on the field? Is it off the field? Is it media? Is it youth? Whatever. You can go whatever direction you want with it. Other news this morning that we need to touch on. Nashville did play a match yesterday. They drew 0-0 with Elfsborg, the Swedish team that Atlanta United will be playing tomorrow, which you can watch live, 5 o'clock, atlutd.com/live. Kevin Egan and myself will be on the call. I'm looking forward to that. Elfsborg is a mid-table Swedish first division team. They're probably about the same stage of preseason as Atlanta. They played their first preseason game in Sweden on the 17th. They've played a closed-door match with the U.S. men's national team and this match with Nashville. So they're further along than Atlanta's previous two opponents. So that's something to keep in mind here. It's a team that has been higher up in the first division table in Sweden. Recent years have been kind of so-so, and they've got some new faces. They've got some established players that have left. They've got some young players that are trying to break through. It's a typical mid-table kind of team. You compare the rosters, you compare the values if you're looking at Transfer Markt for a guideline here, and Atlanta is a bigger club than Elfsborg. But you get on the field, and you get on the field in these situations in a preseason match. It's not just about the results. It's not just about who's the bigger club. It's about what are the goals? What are you looking for? What are you trying to get out of this? And when you go back to what Frank de Boer told Doug Robertson before the match with Philadelphia, I think a lot of those things are still going to be in play here as you're building. This is game 3 of preseason. When to press, when not to press, when to drop. Playing fast and playing fast at the right times, limiting risk, not playing fast recklessly, but playing fast when you can and forcing the other team to adjust. Those are just some of the things that I think you're looking for. You're looking for the chemistry between different groups on the field. Obviously, the Joseph, Pitti, Barco group up front. I think the back line, whatever it looks like, if it's Meza, Robinson, Escobar, you're looking for those two groups of 3 to really start to coalesce.
Yeah, and looking at the highlights from the previous match for Atlanta United, the fast was there, and it was fun to watch. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps against Elfsborg. And my Elfsborg question for you is, how's the studying going?
Good. I mean, it's not as easy as it is in some other cases because I am not very knowledgeable when it comes to the Swedish language. and learning some of the differences between with the roster having players from Sweden, from Finland, from Norway, from Denmark. There's subtle differences between all of them, just getting into the pronunciation. So it's going to be a challenge. And it's not something that there's not a lot of accessible information on. You know, I mean, I think I've got the basics on who they are, what they're about, what players to look at, what players to focus on. They've just added a Finnish center back who's a national team player, and he's probably their biggest addition this year. They're trying to figure out who their goalkeeper is going to be because their longtime goalkeeper retired after the 2019 season. You've got a couple young attacking players that are described as fast and technical. So you want to see how they look. You want to see how the 18, 19, 20-year-olds with Elfsborg look against Atlanta's 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So the basics are there, but it's just not a league that I've had as much of a relationship with. I don't know the storylines in Sweden as well. So it's going to be heavily focused on Atlanta, obviously, and what the Atlanta storylines are. And we kind of know those. We know the new faces. We know the basics of the way this team wants to play. We'll be looking at tactical flexibility. We'll be looking at chemistry and relationships on the field. We kind of know that side of it, and that's going to be the focus. But you also, in any match, you just have to know what the opponent is bringing to the table, and that's important here. So we'll be continuing to study Elfsborg the rest of the day. There wasn't much that came out after their match with Nashville yesterday. It was behind closed doors, no stream, so not a lot to go on there. It's just trying to piece together some information, and we will go from there.
But, yes, still looking forward to having games to talk about.
Yes, that will be a very, very, very good thing. One thing we can talk about today is a joint statement released by MLS and the MLS Players Association that they have agreed to extend the current CBA through February 7th. The two groups have engaged in productive discussions and will continue to negotiate a new CBA. I take that as a good sign?
Yes.
Am I being a sunshine pumper when I say that?
No, I think that once again, when you sit there and you see a continuance, I guess if you want to use a legal term, where you're going to continue operating under the current negotiation, the current contract, the current bylaws, those kinds of things. I think that if you heard either side sit there and come out publicly and say something either wary or negative, then I think you should have some concern one way or the other. But no, I think the fact that you're not hearing a lot, I think that you're close. There's probably some things that you're going to sit there, and if you're apart, you're probably going to go somewhere in the middle. So I think that you're close, but no, I don't think that you're pumping sunshine. Although here at SDH HQ, when you look out the window, it's not a bad idea.
I've been described as a sunshine pumper, so I need to limit pumping sunshine, I guess.
That's my job.
Well, depends on how much Mountain Dew you've had. Portland got their signing done, Polish forward, and this is something that the Timbers are going to have to clarify a little bit because I had to go backwards and try to figure this out. So the player that they have signed, Jaroslav Niezgoda, done very well. He's described by Gavin Wilkinson as a player who can play as a 9. He can play as a second forward. He can play out wide. They feel like he's a good balance with Jeremy Abobasi, who they are trying to sign to a new long-term deal. This doesn't change anything about how they feel about Abobasi, even though they are trying to add another forward too, Felipe Mora from Pumas, which reportedly is pretty much a done deal at this point as well. The thing that Portland, besides how they're going to balance all that, are they going to play two up top more, which is what it's sounding like?
Yeah.
What are we going to call our friend Jaroslav? Jaroslav. because, well, in the quote, it's Yarrick, and his first name's not Yarrick. So it's like, wait a minute, is that a mistake? And I started going back through things to look at it. No, I mean, that's what he's been referred to plenty, and I believe the club that he left from in their goodbye message called him that. So I guess it's a nickname.
Maybe,
but
I mean, if you think about it,
you're Bill for William. Is it something like that?
All day, you're going to be spending all day sitting there going Yaroslav Nizhgoda. You know, it takes entirely too long. So Yarrick, I think I'll take it. I'll take Yarrick twice on Tuesday.
I mean, no, Yarrick is the first name, so you're basically replacing Yaroslav with Yarrick. It's not that different. So I'm confused, and just get me the story. That's all. I just want to know, because I want to make sure we're calling him what you want. And in the press release, you know, you're given the pronunciation on the player, and it's not Yarrick. So I'm just baffled, and it could make for a little funny story. It can make for a little funny post, and Portland's really good at that kind of stuff. But I know some other people got a little confused by that as well. So I'm waiting for clarification, Portland Timbers. They're playing Saprissa in a preseason match tomorrow, which will be very interesting to follow up on. Miami has got a signing done. Nicolas Figal, he is from Independiente in Argentina, played with Barco during his time there. Over 100 appearances for Independiente during his time there since 2014. Described by Paul McDonough as a player just entering his prime as a player, has already shown impressive skill in defense. McDonough said he showed his quality playing in Argentina, winning important international competitions and being selected as one of the best defenders in his country. We're happy to be able to bring him in and continue to shore up our backline. What do you think?
Hey, keep bringing in bodies and keep helping out the back. That's check and check for me.
It's a good one. I mean, I think it's a good signing. I think defensively they're pretty good, but this is a good addition. Now, the addition that sounds like Miami's trying to make is a very, very interesting addition, and Diego Armando Medina, who is, I believe, based in Monterrey and is described as one of the most well-connected sources for Rayados news. He tweeted last night at 10 p.m. that Miami is offering $19.6 million for Rodolfo Pizarro. And no update on what Monterrey thinks of being offered $19.6 million. Now, TUDN earlier in the day yesterday said that Pizarro had turned down a deal from Chicago, and they said that he wanted to move to Europe or to Chivas. So I think at this point it's safe to assume that Pizarro will not be with Monterrey shortly. Where he is going to be the question. Does that kind of offer, and from a club like Miami as opposed to a club like Chicago, is that enough to sway him? Have to wait and see. That was at 10 o'clock, the report of a $19.6 million offer for Pizarro.
What's your gut?
Well, for Monterrey, that's impossible to turn down. I don't think you're getting that from Europe. I don't think you're getting that from Chivas. I don't think you're getting that from anybody. So Monterrey part of it, yeah. It's going to be down to his former manager, Diego Alonso, selling him on it. It's going to be down to David Beckham putting in a call and selling him on it. Pizarro's a talent. I mean, is he worth that much of a transfer fee? I don't know. But once you make the decision, and this is the thing about the designated player rules and the way it's set up in MLS. Once you commit, and you're like, yeah, he's going to be a designated player. He's not a young designated player. He's a designated player. You know what the cap hit is. If you got the money to spend, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not affecting your cap. It doesn't have, I mean, you could spend 50, you could spend 5. If he's a designated player, he's a designated player. If you got the money to spend, then it's up to you to decide what your budget is, what your market is. So they need to get a big player. Now, I think Pizarro is a big player. Is he a big player in terms of moving the needle? I mean, honestly, I think Rodolfo Pizarro excites the Miami fan base more than David Silva would or Pedro would. I do.
Yeah.
And Miami's not a heavy Mexican market, but it's still part of the overall Latin community in Miami and in the Miami area. So if it comes down to spending that kind of money on David Silva, on Pedro, on a player of that level that Miami's been linked to, or Pizarro, I think you'd rather do it on Pizarro. He's a little bit younger too. I think you'd have him for longer. I think you could get a sale to Europe. I don't think you would make more money on the deal, although I don't want to completely rule it out. I think at his age, I don't know if you're going to get 30, 40 million from Europe. I think he probably would have already gotten that if that was the case. But I think you can do business with it, and if in a couple years that offer comes, I don't think you're going to lose a boatload of money on it. Right. So it's an interesting one. I mean, if they're swinging and missing on others, and you're able to pull this together, and you've got to spend $5 million more than you wanted to, it's not going to break their bank. So at this point, they need to get something done, and maybe they have to spend a little bit more to do it.
And when you're up against deadlines for assembling rosters, that's usually the way it ends up.
Not even that. You're up against a schedule. It's not a deadline because you could take it to May, and that's the thing. If Miami wanted to play hardball,
you want to have things ready for match week 1, is what I'm saying.
In a perfect world, but that, and this comes up a lot. In a perfect world, absolutely. It's not a perfect world, and if Miami wanted to play hardball with it and drag it out and try to get less money, they could, because they have players who can play in that position. Miami's in a little bit different situation than your average MLS club because it's year one. You would like to hit the ground running even more than I think a normal club would. So it's not a deadline in that regard, but it's definitely pressure. And like we've talked about in the Atlanta United conversations, when you have that leverage and you can stretch things out, you don't get forced into a bad deal sometimes. Miami doesn't have that leverage for a number of reasons, on and off the field. And they might have to spend more here to get this deal done. And if that's what it takes, I think it's the move to make. I think this is a better move to spend above your ideal budget on than most of the others that have been brought to the table. Now, the other one that has been floated out there, and there would likely be some resolution to it today, is Edinson Cavani. Now, that's a different conversation. That's a different amount of money, first off, both in salary and in transfer, potentially. Because it sounds like Cavani's move, I believe it was to Atletico Madrid, has fallen through.
Yep.
So can Miami jump in there and get a deal done at the last minute? And would Cavani want to take that move? That's interesting. That's really interesting. I think Cavani would move the needle more than Pizarro. He's not going to move the needle like a Messi, like a Ronaldo, like a Beckham, like a Chicharito. It's not to that degree. He's a wonderful player. But he would move the needle more than Pizarro would. Could you potentially get both? If you want to spend, yeah. You're going to have to spend a lot of money, but how about that splash if you pull that off?
Pizarro and Cavani?
Cavani up top as your number 9. You've got Pizarro playing behind him.
That wouldn't suck.
You've got the young Argentine Pellegrini on one side. That's maybe you throw Juan Agudelo on the right side. That's a good attack. So pay attention today to Miami rumors, because I don't know if it's one or the other, if they're working both on separate tracks, Or if now maybe because of the time crunch, maybe you feel like you've got to get something done on Cavani right this second, and you might have to put all your resources to that. It's going to be fascinating today as the European window comes down. I don't know if Cavani's move, it sounds like since it's gotten far on others that he could even potentially go after the window's closed in Europe, because it's not about bringing in a replacement for him. I think he's seen as a surplus.
Yeah, his time at in starting 11s at PSG has dropped.
Yeah,
and
so I feel like they have cover. So even if it goes into Saturday or Sunday or whatever, then you might be able to get it done. And that could be another interesting tactic from Miami in negotiating this out. So Miami will be a team to watch today as the window in Europe closes, as this offer is making the rounds in Mexico this morning. And we'll see what happens with Cavani. So Miami could be a very interesting source of news today.
That's a word to use. Interesting source. Yeah. I mean,
could be.
Mm-hmm. What else is on your mind as we get toward the end of hour number one?
Well, we talked yesterday about Cincinnati and the potential for them to sign a big time number 9.
6 bigs.
Well, that's what the son of the general manager said. I mean, he was not underselling this, which was a very interesting tactic on Twitter.
I anticipate some hopping up and down and clapping of hands and general excitement as he's relaying.
That was the way I pictured the tweet being delivered. Now, Cincinnati Soccer Talk has first reported this. Dutch forward Jurgen Locadia is near completion, according to sources. Here's the deal on this player. He's 26. He came up through Dutch youth national teams, hasn't played for the senior team yet. He is under contract to Brighton. He is currently on loan to Hoffenheim. He's only played 526 minutes with Hoffenheim, 4 goals and 1 assist. Hasn't played much lately, hasn't started since November 30th. Okay. To do it, Cincinnati would have to get a deal with Brighton. Brighton would have to cancel the loan to Hoffenheim. I think a lot of people have zeroed in on that as a huge problem. I don't think it is. Yeah. I don't think that's much of an issue. Now, we don't know what the loan potential is. I would assume that Brighton would come back to Cincinnati and say, yeah, it's going to cost us $3 million to cancel the loan, so you're going to have to pay that. Welcome to Negotiation 101. Whatever it is, that's a small issue. Now, the Argus, which covers Brighton in England, wrote a story a couple hours ago. I think it's probably about 3-4 hours ago at this point, and said that the move is some way from completion. They said, we understand a move to Cincinnati is possible with the process ongoing, but it is not clear whether it would be a loan or permanent deal, and negotiations are said to be, quote, complicated. Well-placed source told the Argus, quote, there's a lot of work still to be done. Now, people have jumped in and said the same thing they did about Chicharito's move, like, oh, it's 3 clubs in a year, you can't do that. It's the same situation. MLS is not on the same calendar as the clubs he's coming from. This season in 2020 is looked at as a separate calendar season from the 2019/20 seasons that he's playing in Europe and with Brighton. So it's not 3 clubs in a year, which you can't do. You can't play for 3 clubs in a year. It's not the same year. So that's nothing to be concerned about. Now, Ron Jans talked about this in a press conference yesterday about finishing. Didn't talk about this deal specifically, but he said, after winning 3-0 over Phoenix Rising on Wednesday, as you see in the match yesterday, finishing might be a problem. The players agree. We should have scored 5 times with the chances we had. On the other hand, we created so many chances. The opponent wasn't MLS, but they were not so bad. I was satisfied with the chances, but not the execution. Now, he hinted that signings could be announced in the coming days, didn't go into detail. One thing he did say is that Darren Maddox is not in his plans. So there's a forward that could maybe be a starter in this league, more likely a second option that could be available. I don't know if Gerard Nijkamp was maybe happy with the way that came out, because that kind of ruins your bargaining position on making a move.
I'm not happy with this player.
You're going to just have to give him away, basically, for draft pick or whatever. But Cincinnati's a weird one at times. They picked up the option on Logan Gadula's contract, center back, and then they waived him a couple days ago. They picked up the option in November and then waived him. So, okay. They just react as stuff comes up. So this could be another one. So be on the lookout for Darren Maddox potentially on the move, but be on the lookout for Locadia coming to Cincinnati. We'll see if that deal gets done, and we'll see if the European window affects it, with Hoffenheim maybe feeling like they might need a replacement, Brighton maybe feeling a little bit of pressure to get this done. I don't know. Keep an eye on it. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back right after this. We'll get into the Friday flashback tweets from you guys and anything else on your mind on a Friday. Be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, January 31st edition of Soccer Down Here. Thanks for everybody reaching out and getting hats from us. I've got a long trip to the post office today because I'm going to have to get a lot of things shipped out, which is a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing.
Man, usually the lines are crazy before Christmas. The line yesterday was madness. Just
line before
madness.
Valentine's
People get
Day?
Mad? No, I don't even think it had anything to do with that. It's just it's just so
Well,
funny
when did you
to
go?
hear people in a line. It was late in the afternoon, so maybe I just caught
see now
everybody at the same time.
everybody's pushing to get their thing stamped by the end of the day. That's what that is. That's afternoon.
It's like
rush.
an hour before closing, so it wasn't even like right before they closed. So I don't know, but it's just so funny in lines like that because it's obvious. Like there's one person at the counter, they can only work so fast, and people are just back behind like, oh, I mean, this is and it's like people can hear you. You know?
Yeah.
Like, just
I
relax.
can't believe there's only one person here. They need more people here. You guys are awful.
Yeah, it's like just relax and let him do his job, and it'll be okay.
But they
He's a
do
very
need
nice
more
man.
people. But there does need to be a sense of awareness when the line's out the back and there's only one person working.
Oh, of course. I just don't know if there was
Obviously.
anybody else there. And these are the
Yeah.
things, I mean, having worked in retail before, you never know, like, did somebody call out sick? Did somebody get sick? Did something happen with the schedule? Did somebody leave? Did somebody get fired? Who knows? So, like, it's just part of the deal. It happens. It was just very funny how upset people were getting waiting.
Oh, yeah. People get wound up when it comes to having to deal with the service industry.
And
I mean,
they're
it's
vocal about it too. That's the part that's changed. It's not even just like they get wound up and even maybe huff and puff a little bit and then gripe
this is
about
no
it like
filter.
I did with the line. It's people like just making their anger very clear in the moment.
you people are awful. I can't believe my tax dollars go to this stuff.
Okay, they didn't do that. That sounded like it came from experience.
I've heard that, yes.
Wow, that's bad.
They're
Anyway.
like, we ought to privatize this. You people are awful.
Oh,
you'll
geez,
get that.
go
one.
to the
You'll get
UPS store.
that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, there are other places you can go and get that taken care of there,
Uh-huh.
So I will be visiting my friends at the post office later today to get some hats out to people. If you want to get in on that business, send us a message. Let us know. We have scarves. We have trucker hats. We have beanies. All of that goes back into the show to help us grow and help us do things like a high school game of the week starting next week. The first ever Georgia high school soccer game of the week in any format ever. I've done a decent bit of research on this. Ever. So this is going to be pretty cool to do and shine a spotlight on great high school programs in a lot of different parts of the state. So that first broadcast will be on Tuesday from North Gwinnett High School. Both the girls and the boys game, we'll have them both for you on the SDH app, on soccerdownhere.net, on Spreaker, all the places you listen to the show. You can listen live, but you can also listen later if you want to check that out later. But traditional radio broadcast of high school soccer that's just never been done in the state on a game of the week level.
Yep. Norcross, North Gwinnett on the 4th. Next one currently on the grid is Pope and Harrison on the 21st. March 3rd, Parkview and Roswell. Following Tuesday, March 10th, North Springs and Riverwood. Then we hit the road. The road show, March 17th, Vidalia and Toombs County. Then it is March 24th, Sprayberry and Dalton. March 31st, Lakeside and Decatur. April 3rd, we go to Blairsville for East Hall and Union County. April 14th, the regular season ender for us, Social Circle in Oconee County from Watkinsville. So that's the grid so far.
It's going to be a fun year calling high school soccer. We'll have some different voices on those as well, so stay tuned. That's going to be a lot of fun covering all of it. We've got a hashtag for the kids youth soccer show coming your way later this afternoon. John Aiken, who you've heard on the network before, the head coach over at Oglethorpe University on the men's side. He's also the executive director of Brookhaven FC on the youth side. And John and I have had a ton of different conversations, different points over the years about philosophy and building a club and what's good and what needs to get better. And we kind of got into a lot of stuff on the very basic topic of curriculum at a youth club and kind of went all over the place as we're prone to do. So be on the lookout for that later this afternoon. We'll have some crumpets and espresso for you later as well. Kind of recapping the transfer deadline day moves because there will be more. Biggest one yesterday in the U.S. perspective was Anthony Robinson going to Milan on a $10 million deal from Wigan. That number shocked me.
Yeah.
That's one of the largest transfers for a U.S. national team player that we've seen. It's a big deal. And it was an unexpected deal. You don't see a lot of players going from Wigan to Milan.
No.
And it's an interesting one. It came out of nowhere, and you almost didn't believe it when it first started getting mentioned. But Milan gets the deal done yesterday.
Yeah, and when you look at the financials in all of this, knowing where Wigan is right now, just in a financial sense right now. They are in the relegation zone in the championship, 4 points from safety. And they need all the financial help they can get to possibly bring in some players so they can make up that 4 points that Charlton Athletic has in front of them to stay afloat in the championship. But Wigan is a story of one of those teams that was in the Premier League and has fallen out once they were relegated out of the Prem, and they've been bouncing back and forth between the Championship and League One. They're like Stoke and Huddersfield, Birmingham, Middlesbrough, Reading, QPR, and Hull, all at the bottom of the Championship right now. And that cash infusion for their bottom line, regardless of players, that's big.
$10 million can go a long way in the Championship. We'll see what they end up doing. Former MLS player and reigning goalkeeper of the year, Vito Mannone, is heading out on loan. And that's how he was in Minnesota last year. But Reading is loaning him to Denmark, to Esbjerg, a club that I am not familiar with.
Okay.
That is not the move that Vito Mannone was talking about. Now, it's a short-term one. It's just through June of 2020, and I don't know where his contract stands. But the club he's headed to is a first division club in Denmark. It's, not... I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I don't think I'm stretching here. That's a step down.
Yeah.
And maybe he was a little too bold in his salary demands. He turned down a contract that, according to Minnesota folks, would have made him the highest-paid goalkeeper in Major League Soccer. And he ends up in a club in Denmark.
Berkshire Live from this morning says that the Italian had been training with Reading but was nowhere near the first team, and with 6 months left on his Royals deal, a departure was the best option for all concerned.
Well, and this is the thing. So he didn't sign a pre-contract anywhere, which he could have. He could have signed a pre-contract, tried to force a transfer to go there, could have just trained on the side at Reading until that contract ran out. That didn't happen. So he's going on loan to Denmark for 6 months, then his contract's up and he's free and he can go wherever. If he doesn't have a deal in place to go on a free, and I don't know why he hasn't signed something already, this feels like a massive mistake.
He overplayed his hand.
Yeah, it really feels that way. He talked about only really wanting to go back to Italy. Well, he could have signed with an Italian club, and it would have been a pre-contract, and he would have joined them next season unless they decided to pony up some cash to get a deal done now, which sounds like if Reading's willing to loan him to Denmark, then that would have probably been possible and wouldn't have been very expensive. So I'm blown away by this whole thing.
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
Yeah. This is... You're playing 7-card stud, and you've got a pair of deuces, and you're sitting there and try to work your way to the pot at the center of the table. This did not go well.
I think Vito Mannone is worth more than a pair of twos, but I get your point.
Yeah,
he's the reigning MLS goalkeeper of the year, John.
Yeah, I know, but if you think that you're worth whatever you're worth, and then you got 6 months left on the deal, you're nowhere near first team, and then you're going to go play someplace else, then something ain't right.
I'll give him more credit. I'll say he's got an ace high, and he's really hoping for that ace on the river, and it didn't.
Okay. Yep.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, I'll go there.
He ended up going to Denmark instead of getting that ace on the river. Okay, Real Salt Lake. They are in contract talks with former Italian international forward Giuseppe Rossi. He arrived on Monday night, started training on Wednesday, have not seen an update since. It was Sam Stejko with the news first over at The Athletic. I'll be intrigued by this one because Rossi's not exactly the player that they need. They've lost both their wingers. They have forward options, although we could see Corey Baird move over to the wing. Sam Johnson's been disappointing in year one, but has shown some flashes. I I mean, it's just hard to even really guess where Rossi is at this point. The injuries have completely and utterly derailed his career. And what does he have? Can he just be an option off the bench? Okay. I mean, if that's it, that's fine. You're getting a pedigree that's great. You've got a young team, so having a veteran presence is always good. And if he can give you minutes off the bench, a spot start here and there, and be a good mentor for other young players, could be worth it. I'll be intrigued to see if this one gets done. It's just a one I did not expect him to end up at Salt Lake if he was going to be in MLS.
Right. And hey, I'd love to see where he is right now and what he's got to offer. And this is one I am looking forward to seeing the end result, I guess, is where this leads. That's what I guess is what I'm looking for.
Yes. Kamar Lawrence has reportedly led his way to Belgium and Anderlecht, which means that the Red Bulls would have moved both of their outside backs to Anderlecht in the same window for not much money. $1.25 million, according to sources. Paul Tenorio, Sam Stejkal wrote this over at The Athletic. Still, completion of a medical, paperwork needs to be finalized. We'll see if it gets announced today. He had asked for a trade. He wanted a long-term deal, and it looks like he's going to be moved to Belgium instead. $1.25 million feels very low. I think some people might, and I've seen it a lot, so maybe I'm the one who's wrong here. It's low, but I don't think it is catastrophically low. I don't know what the market is for Kamar Lawrence, and
right.
I think he might be overrated a little bit in MLS circles. I think he's a very good left back. I don't think he's the best left back the league's ever seen. I don't think he's the best left-sided player, bar none, in league history, or maybe even in the league now. I think he's really, really good. But $1.25 million seems extremely low. I would have thought you could have gotten at least in the $3-4 million range. At least in that kind of ballpark. More than that would have felt like an over ask, but at least double this. I mean, But if you're at that point where it's just we're not going to have him back, we can't find a trade that we like in the league, we're going to take this. I would feel like you could get a Gressel kind of trade within the league for him.
Yeah.
And you'd maybe rather do that than take this transfer, because then you're going to get that allocation money that you can use, as opposed to this cash that I don't know if you're going to get the $750,000 in GAM out of this, because you don't know what was paid for him as a transfer before. You don't know what you've put completely into him in salary. I don't know. This just feels like all right, you want to go? We can't find a better deal. All right, go.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Because when that $1.25 million came across, I was like, that seems low. And it, I guess you just get to that point of no return, and it's like all right, we can't do anything. So all right, this one we'll just find a suitor and head him out the door. It's just it's a head scratcher on a bunch of different levels, but okay, that's what you thought you could do.
Yeah, it's a strange one. So we'll see what happens. The other one that could get done very soon, and it could be announced today with some of the teases that are out there from the Seattle Sounders, Joao Paulo. He is a veteran central midfielder, more attack-minded. Looks like he can play as a 10, a little bit of time on the right side as well. Botafogo, 49 matches in 2019 across State League, National League, Cup, over 300 games professionally. He's only 28 years old. Nico Moreno with Pulso Sports Network in Seattle said that it's one step away from crossing the finish line, just a matter of final paperwork. The Sounders video that came out had what looked like a Botafogo tie to it, so you can safely assume that this is the deal that's going to get done for Seattle. Now, it's not the defensive midfielder. It's not the center back. So what does this mean for the way the pieces move around a little bit?
Yeah.
I want to see it. I mean, it's doable, but can Joao Paulo and Nico Ladero hit it off and be that creative hub for this team. If they do, it's a great addition.
Yeah, but I'm still looking at the back. Great. You're bringing in Joao Paulo, great, but little help here, working toward the back of the back of the plan.
Yes, definitely that. One more, the player Brian Galvan, who Colorado signed on a pre-contract. He's set to join in the summer. The president of his current club, Colón in Argentina, Jose Vignati, has said that the club has opened up negotiations with the Rapids. At this point, there's really no value in holding on to him. He's going to go in 6 months. Go ahead and get something for it. If it's a small amount, get it done. I think it'll be best for everybody involved. Do you have an update on Cavani?
From this morning, from our friends over at NBC Sports in the soccer section, they are under the impression that Cavani is going to be staying at PSG and that perhaps the Miami interest was to try to gin up something from Atletico Madrid. So it looks like Cavani's going to be staying at PSG, and that Inter Miami might have just been a shiny object to try to get things to pressure a move to Atletico.
Okay, we'll see if there's any more twists and turns as we go.
As the Cavani turns.
Yeah, seriously. I don't see anything else more recently. So, actually, hold on. Fabrizio Romano, who does transfer coverage for Sky Sport for The Guardian, he said Cavani's going to stay at PSG until next June. No agreement with Atletico. EPL clubs never had chances of signing him because Cavani has agreed personal terms with Atleti for next summer. So, if that's the case, then nothing for Miami there. So Go throw that money at Rodolfo Pizarro, and there you go.
Yep.
And we'll see if there's updates on that side before we're done today. You guys have tweeted at us for a while now, so let's get to the tweets.
We got plenty, so here we go. From your question for your Friday flashback, Clayton Fain says awarding Atlanta. Sir. What was the question? How did you phrase it? Because I don't have it in front of me. I'm sitting here reading tweets.
Ay, Dios mío. Un momento. So, I want to read it exactly. Yes. What is the most important thing MLS has done in its first 25 years? That is your Friday flashback question.
Clayton Fain awarding Atlanta a franchise.
Well, I mean, it's pretty important to us, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually, you want to say that that's the most important thing that the league has done? I think it's on the list because what Atlanta has done, one, in the way they've built a team, has shown that, hey, LAFC, you can build this way and put your own twist on it. But yes, hey, Miami, you can build this way and put your own twist on it. And yes, it's shown Nashville that there can be a soccer market in a city that everybody thought was a bad idea when it was announced. It's shown Charlotte and David Tepper, hey, there's money to be made here, and this is a big opportunity for your business. And it's motivated them to come into the league. I think, step further for American soccer as a whole, Atlanta United's success and just galvanizing the soccer community in the region has helped Birmingham Legion, has helped Greenville Triumph, has helped South Georgia Tormenta, has helped everything going on in Chattanooga, although Chattanooga FC predated Atlanta United. But I think just more soccer excitement has even helped a club like Chattanooga FC. The Red Wolves, I don't think, come in. I don't think you see a lot of the growth in soccer in the Southeast without Atlanta United's success. So was it something that MLS did saying, like, this is a big thing we have to do because it's going to help our league? No, I think they questioned it. But I think actually doing it and Arthur Blank convincing them, not just you need to come to Atlanta, but you need to come to Atlanta in this way, in a big stadium, so we can do this big, changed their trajectory for the league.
Eric Schwartz went off the board this morning. for his Friday thought. He says, I have one concern with the idea that the team might play with 3 at the back primarily next year.
Okay.
The pregame starting 11 graphics on social media. The digital team does a great job, but sometimes I felt like a detective trying to figure out who was playing in what role last year, especially with the varied and creative left wingback option.
Well, don't put that on the digital team. So sometimes you got to follow orders, and that's what it is. But that's part of the game. That's part of the confusion that you can do. And I think this year, honestly, you're going to see more of that 11. The name of 11 comes, or list of 11 comes out, and you don't know what they're going to do because I don't
11 headshots.
No, I'm not talking about from a graphic perspective. I'm actually talking from a soccer perspective because you could see the same 11 in back-to-back games and they could play in a different shape.
True.
And I think you're going to see more of that. There's always this idea that, well, once you settle on a shape, you have to play that shape. No. You're going to see moving around. I mean, the top clubs in the world will go 3-4-3 one game because it can exploit something in the opposition. Then they might go 4-5-1 the next game because they're worried about something in the opposition. Like you're going to see adjustment. So don't get hung up on shape, although the graphic might not help you very much. But sometimes you got to follow orders.
Couple from Sean Vergara. Why hasn't Tito been announced, and will we see any player movement today?
Don't know why Tito hasn't been announced. He's in Paraguay. There are pictures that are out there of it, so I think it's just getting paperwork done more than anything. Could we see other player movement? I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but the rumors are out there about potential additions, and you're getting to a point where you could see these guys. Arzamendia is playing with Paraguay's U23s today, along with Villasanti. They could advance in the Olympic qualifying tournament. They could be eliminated today. And I think once they're eliminated, there'll at least be clarification on where things stand with them. They're not in Paraguay right now. They're not at Cerro Porteño, so you're not getting the same type of discussion on it. In terms of Joseto, the Brazilian, haven't seen anything since Wednesday. The discussion there was that it was down to paperwork, so I don't know. You're at that point of the year where, anything could happen, and deals could get announced at any point. So make sure you got those notifications on Twitter, on ATL UTD, and for Darren Eales, too, because he'll probably give you a teaser before it happens.
Yes. Tafka, in discussing cheating and gamesmanship this morning.
Oh, here we're going back to this one. Okay.
Yep. I've come to the conclusion that the truest demarcation between cheating and gamesmanship for scenarios like the Suarez handball situations or even run-of-the-mill tactical fouls is the presence of purposeful deception.
Okay.
Using the rules in place to your advantage, not trying to hide your action to me is a sufficient argument for gamesmanship. I'm going to keep going until you tell me to stop. It's like cliffhanger here.
I'm with him to a degree. There is a difference. So for me, there's a difference between Diego Maradona, hand of God, and Luis Suarez using his hand to keep a goal out. They're two very different things. And the foul recently, that's completely different than the hand of God. So there's differences. I can roll with this. Let's see where it goes.
Intentional rule breaking and trying to get away with something, in quotes, constitutes cheating in my book. Hand of God, Henri handball, dives with zero contact, pretending to be hurt, Astro ceiling signs with trash cans and cameras, deflate gate, etc. When it's subterfuge, it's cheating.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I mean, I still think, I'm good with that. It's not cheating at all to me, committing a foul. And handling the ball on the goal line in that situation for Suarez, he committed a foul. That's what it is. Now, where you can get a little confused here is if player commits a foul and the referee just misses it. Are they trying to cheat or are they committing a foul to help their team? That gets into a gray area. So let's say the ref missed it on the Suarez handball. Would he then be described as a cheat for doing it, even though it's pretty clear and the ref missed it. That's the gray area. But it's not cheating to commit a foul. He got red carded, he got punished, whatever. The tackle from behind that prevented the breakaway, he got punished. He got red carded. So those are not cheating at all to me. When it's called, I think it's really hard to call it cheating. I mean, the guy's getting punished. When it's not called, it can create a gray area. When it is what Tafka's describing of subterfuge, I like that word too. It's
subterfuge.
Yeah, I'm fine with calling it cheating. That's fine. If it gets called, maybe it's a little bit different conversation, but when it doesn't get called and it is trying to sneak something, yeah, for sure. I have more of an issue with complete dives or what we saw out of like Rivaldo in the 2002 World Cup where Turkish player kicked the ball out to the corner to take the corner. It hit him in the leg, and he starts holding his face and rolling around and acting crazy about it to get a red card on the player, and it happened. I have more of an issue with that than what Maradona did and what Henry did, because they're taking the risk that gets called, and they're taking the risk that Suarez took in his. It's different because they're doing it in an attacking sense instead of trying to prevent something at the very end. There's a different feel to it. But they're taking that risk that something gets called. When somebody completely simulates something, you know, you'll see the guy not get hit in the face but go down grabbing his face like he got punched. Or even the best trick is when they grab the other player's arm and swing it back at him and then go down like they got punched. That's really good cheating.
Yes. Or is that good gamesmanship?
No, that's cheating. Those are the things that I have an issue with. That's even worse to me than saying, well, am I going to get away with this punch because I can't get to this header, or I need to control this and I got no other way, I'm going to stick my arm out like Henry did, because if that gets called, it gets called. But when you're trying to make something up that didn't happen, that's even more egregious to me. So that's my level of it, is making something up that didn't happen, I have the most issue with. Doing something that is trying to be sneaky and against the rules is a next level. Doing something that's against the rules and committing a foul and getting punished for it, that's just part of the game to me.
Michael
Head, I don't know if
got
gamesmanship is the right word. That was my issue. Gamesmanship is a tricky word for it, but
yeah,
we can wordsmith that. I think we're on the same page.
Yes. Michael Head got his Motagua tickets at Kennesaw State secured. Ticket process was very easy this time.
Sweet. I think a lot of people have been getting their tickets this morning.
Chris Ashley. I need my detective work finding Paul Christensen training with @GVL Triumph discussed on the show today because #much excite.
That's very good. I like Paul Christensen. Little bit undersized as a goalkeeper, and there's always managers and goalkeeper coaches that lean to the 6'6" guy. Christensen, I think, is quick enough to make up for it. Thought he was good with his distribution as well. He needs to play, and that's the thing for young goalkeepers that can be the challenge. Is you get to a point that you just don't benefit being the number two, and in Christensen's case, he needs games on a regular basis because in Atlanta with 3 goalkeepers on the first team, you're going to have to give Alec Can and Brendan Moore some games with Atlanta United too. You have to keep them sharp and fresh in case they're needed. So that's going to cut into a USL signed goalkeeper there. So for Christensen, it makes a lot of sense to move on and get that opportunity. Because he needs to prove himself more to potentially come back to that level. You know, the signing that Atlanta United 2 has had this week in Ben Lundgaard, you're talking about a player who is more proven and maybe is more comfortable working in this group and saying, well, I can earn the trust of the first team staff by being here and maybe work my way into an MLS deal. It's a different situation than Christensen, who just has to play and build up that reputation. So Greenville would be a great fit for him, and he'd be a great fit for Greenville.
Yep, and you'd have Christensen and Dallas J chasing after the number one goal slot,
and they'll
goalie
push each
slot.
other. And Jay's great, so that'll be a good fit.
Shiva, I have a question for you before I answer yours.
Uh-oh.
Why did we not schedule a preseason game with LAFC or NYC? The quality of their squad would have really tested us. I liked Red Bulls, but I don't know what we got out of Philly. Shrugged shoulder emoji.
Well, LAFC is staying in California, and you're not training in California, so that's probably part of it. Don't know if you wanted to play a game at Bank of California Stadium, either in front of a crowd. Don't know if you wanted to let them make money off of you, which, hey, it's part of the deal. But you just weren't training in California, so you would have had to go there on your own, do a game there. I don't know if it would have been beneficial. New York City spent some time in Florida at the Florida Cup. That was a kind of last-minute thing when another team fell through. I don't know if you could have made scheduling work once they took that on. So preseason stuff is tricky. Like, there's benefit to playing lesser competition because you get to get rhythm and build yourself up. You also get to ease new players in and ease young players in. But yeah, you want to get tested too. Sometimes you don't want to get tested too early in preseason. You want it to build a bit. So it's strategic, and playing two top teams that you're going to be competing with for MLS Cup, the decision could have been, you know what, we're going to see them. We don't need to see them now and create a measuring stick. Let's wait. Maybe they don't look at Red Bulls in Philadelphia in that same way. Or maybe it just came down to, they were there. They were training in Bradenton. They decided to train at IMG. Cool, let's do it. Don't know. But there's always an art form to creating a preseason schedule, and every manager approaches it differently. Some want all kinds of different difficult challenges. Others want to ease in. Others want to play some lesser competition and build up as you go in the preseason.
And the answer to your question from Shiva is, quote, getting more TV right, end quote.
Yes. That has been a development that has been good. There's still room to grow. Go back to the early days of MLS. You had a game of the week on an ESPN network that might be on a Thursday, it might be on a Sunday, it might be on a Friday, it might be on a Tuesday. It was all over the place. So there was no consistent schedule. You had, at the very beginning, you had a game of the week on Univision, which was good, and it was good exposure. It's just those games were at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And you haven't seen suffering like a 1 o'clock game at the Cotton Bowl on a Sunday afternoon in July. And those games were scheduled. And it just
on that AstroTurf welcome mat stuff?
No, the Cotton Bowl wasn't on
grass?
AstroTurf. No. The Cotton Bowl was on grass. So I think it's always been grass. Or it's been grass since MLS started. But it's stupid hot. It's Dallas in July. It's brutal. Sweat watching it. Just looked so bad. But then when the league kind of stuttered a little bit in 99, 2000, 2001, it got harder to find games, and you didn't have any way to watch games out of market. You would be going to a sports bar that had a satellite dish and saying, hey, can you get Home Team Sports out of Washington to show the DC United game that's on right now? And
Satcom
you get laughed out of the bar.
F3 transponder 18.
Yeah, and I'd be like, no. Unless there was nothing else on. It was one of those random Tuesday games, and maybe you could get it on. Now you're getting, a lot of weeks, you're getting 3 national games and the ability to watch everything on ESPN Plus very easily. I mean, for a while they had the games for free on the website. Then they did MLS Live for the out-of-market things, and you paid for it. It's gotten so much better, but there's still that room to grow. I think still more consistency in scheduling would be good. I think exploring the Friday night option as a big-time game of the week to kick off the weekend would be good. There are some leagues that use that. The Premier League has experimented with it. Argentina uses that. Mexico uses that.
Yeah, Liga MX does it.
A Friday night big game of the week, and maybe even working in tandem with Liga MX and working with them on the schedule, doing 1 week the MLS games at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and do it at 8 o'clock and do the Liga MX game at 10 or 10:30. So you do one out west. Then flip it the following week and go back and forth and schedule together to maximize both and get overlap. That would be really interesting. I'd like to see something like that. I'd like to see more growth in TV, but just the fact that MLS has provided programming that more and more networks, both nationally and regionally, are gobbling up and putting on their air, make soccer more accessible. And that's a big thing that MLS has done.
Daniel Price from Hour Number One, he says, sounds like Mr. Cooper doesn't like soccer. After this debacle, you must assume this is a bad deal. With that said, where does Nashville end up? He thinks the team relocates to Vegas or Phoenix.
No, I don't think they relocate because this ownership group has got too much juice. I was a little surprised at some national people who opened that door yesterday. I don't think that's the way that even the statement was intended to be. I think the statement was just clear in that, look, you wouldn't have gotten a team if this hadn't been approved, so why are you holding it up now? I don't think it was a threat to move it. I don't think that'd be a good thing for the league. I don't think it'd be good for MLS. They would be better to have this ownership group spend the money that's needed, maybe in conjunction with the Titans, to renovate Nissan and just play there. Nissan's a good soccer venue. Like, Nissan's not a bad venue at all for soccer. I've watched multiple games at Nissan with the national team, and it's a good soccer venue, period. I mean, you've probably got to do infrastructure stuff, but not like you're not repurposing the field itself. You're not trying to widen it. You don't have to do anything massive. You probably have to build more locker rooms. You probably have to do the center tunnel, stuff like that. It would be worth it to do it if that's what you're forced into. You'd love to have your own venue. You'd love to have control over it. All that stuff is what you got and was approved. But that's a pretty good fallback if you are forced into it. Last resort would be the ownership group in Nashville saying, well, we're not going to continue because we signed up for this. The city has blocked it. We want out. I don't think the league punishes the ownership group in Nashville for something that was out of their control. And especially when they have rode it out with stadium issues in other markets that are completely different. The league would then be opening up itself to a lawsuit by pulling the team and moving it. Because if you're Nashville's owners, then they would say, well, Miami, New York City, these others, no, that's not how we're going to do this. So it's going to get done, but man, there's going to be some hand-wringing and some gnashing of teeth in doing it.
For the record, the city of Nashville lists Nissan's capacity for lower level and club at 38,000.
This is good.
And then you add into that 143 luxury suites, and then the upper deck capacity is at 25,200. So Nissan seats 67.7 on the whole.
It's just like Bank of America. I mean, it would be fine. So if that's what you end up having to do, it's worth it to do that than create a lawsuit either way. But we'll find out.
Yeah. Colonel has a 92.9 question.
I might have an answer.
He wanted to know if you knew if 92.9 or if anybody knew about Darren's plans for 92.9 appearances.
I believe it's going to happen like it always does once the season gets either close or underway. I don't know the timeline for it starting, but I believe that's coming back on Dukes and Bell.
Okay.
I haven't heard otherwise.
Right. And then there have been folks, and you can take this however deeply you wish. There have been folks in the timeline who've wanted to know about extra time yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Boom shakalaka!
I don't know. That just seemed appropriate.
Yeah. So, So yeah, folks have been asking about extra time yesterday.
One, I haven't watched the whole show, so I can't comment on the whole show.
Yeah.
I've seen the 90-second clip that was put out in a very smart way to generate engagement.
Yes.
I want to make sure that I am proper with it. So at extra time yesterday at 8 o'clock, scheduled right on the dot. So Atlanta United fans, how are we feeling about the roster right now? ? Because the extra time crew has some questions about this rebuild. Catch the full show, blah, blah, blah. So they clipped 1 minute 34 with Matt Doyle, with who else? David Goss.
David Goss and Susanna Collins.
Andrew Wiebe is there, and Susanna Collins is there.
Yes.
So one, this clip and the tweet associated with it was designed to drive engagement. Period.
Yep.
100%. I know that Andrew Wiebe quote tweeted it and even worked harder to create more engagement with his quote tweet. Putting this out there on the flagpole as high as possible and waving it around to make sure that a certain fan base that is very large and vocal saw it and had things to say about it, which is what's happened. And look, that's part of the game. We've had this conversation many times. I understand that element of it. It's not the way that we have grown a show and a podcast and a following. I don't like to take a clip and pull it out of context and post it up to get people excited, and I don't think about that when we're talking about soccer here. I don't say, well, if I say this and I put it in this point and then we can clip it this way, that, man, people are going to be tweeting. I just don't go down that road. But also, we have different relationships with sponsors. We have different needs. We're not trying to hit certain numbers. We're doing this on our own to grow it over the long haul. So that affects the way you present content. I totally understand that. It is entertainment. And this is a very specific clip and a very specific tweet to accompany it and a very specific quote tweet to accompany that is designed to get people riled up. That's what it is. Some of the things that were said, I think, were borderline laughable. I believe, John, you transcribed the end of it. Is this correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. You want to read that?
Here's the last 10 seconds. And I wanted to do this specifically so I could get it verbatim, get it correct.
Okay.
And so here we go. David Goss, quote, and this is in reference to Frank DeBoer because he was the meat of that minute 34.
Yeah.
Was he good last year? Were they good last year? Doyle, I don't think they were completely compelling, no. Susanna, are they still fun? Remember when they were fun? Doyle, yeah, that's the thing. Goss, this is sort of fun if you like watching things burn from the outside. End of clip. Yeah.
I want to make one thing clear that in the clip, Doyle was the least negative of the group. He did point out, I think multiple times, that they did win 2 trophies. So, it's kind of a thing. But
in breaking down the team, he also said he felt like they didn't necessarily have to do that.
He felt like they didn't have to break down the team. And, hey, they're not the only ones who've said it. Atlanta United fans have said that too, so you have to also take that into account. We've talked about that end of it. I'm not getting into it. But
no.
Do they pay attention to those things? Absolutely. I mean, these guys are keeping up with the league and keeping up with, where the the currents are in terms of how people are feeling about teams. And look, Atlanta's fan base is large and vocal and is very obvious in how they feel about things in social media. So it's easy for people in New York to see that and say, well, it's burning down from the outside. I've said this many times. It's not the approach that I would take if I was overseeing this from an editorial perspective. It's not the type of content that I enjoy, but I'm not your average viewer or customer or whatever. So, like, I'm going to go to more meat and potatoes of stuff. I'm not looking for hot takes, and I'm not looking for tossing off comments about things burning from the outside or, is it compelling? I'm not looking at it that way. So this isn't geared to me. I honestly don't know if it's geared towards informing Atlanta United fans anything. It feels like it's geared towards engagement. And look, they're getting it, and that's what it's there for. I think in the long term, you can do damage when you're only interested in engagement. And I hope that comes into play at some point in the way that things are presented, because these are you're talking about people who put out a lot of great content around the league and great content digging deep into a lot of different things. But you also have that need at that level to create engagement. And that's what this felt like. It felt very calculated to generate engagement. And look, it's a topic that is generating engagement for us. It's a topic that's generated engagement just in terms of Twitter conversation. And the takes have been along the lines of what these guys said, of what everybody said on the show. And everything that you read that David, Matthew, and Susanna said are things that Atlanta United fans have said. They didn't make anything up. Like, those are things that have been repeated. Maybe it's getting a reaction because it's, hey, we can criticize.
Yeah, we can say that, but you can't.
We can say that about our friend, but you can't. Maybe it's getting a reaction there, but they didn't say anything that hasn't been said here locally. And that's a fact. I thought they went for one angle of it, and we'll see how the season plays out. I've made my points clear and all that. I'm not going to rehash them here, but they got engagement out of it, and that's what the goal of this was. There a lot of the idea with this show specifically is to get people talking and get people reacting, and they do that. Does that mean that at times they might exaggerate, accentuate things for reaction? Yeah, I think that's fair. But what they said in this case, they didn't say things that haven't been said here locally. They didn't say things that we haven't reacted to locally. So it wasn't out of pocket. I just disagree with it. And I've made that clear in things that I've said when it's come up locally. So, they played the game.
React to me. Is this thing on?
See? Jim Rome would have done it.
Rack me.
I mean, it's what you do when that's the voice that you want to put out. It's not the style that I gravitate towards.
No.
But they get listeners, they get viewers, they create conversation around the league. These things are good. I think sometimes they try a little too hard to create conversation. And this felt like that. But it's not anything that hasn't been said already. So it is what it is.
All right, back to our stuff. Ricky Ricardo answering your question. Bringing David Beckham and the subsequent DP rule. Ready for the next evolution of this?
Yeah, I mean, that was a game changer. I was at the NSCAA convention. I think it was in Indianapolis that year. I was there representing soccer in the streets the morning that hit, and it was 2007, so it was pre-Twitter. Facebook was still growing. I don't even remember if I was doing anything with soccer on Facebook at that point. Big Soccer was the message board was one spot that you're going to see this stuff. Also, just following newspaper websites and stuff. So the way it traveled was completely different than the way things travel now, which was kind of wild. I remember coming out of a session and going to the little computer internet cafe area they had at the convention and seeing it. I think somebody had emailed me about it, and then just digging into everything and being like, oh my God, this is actually happening. It felt like a shockwave went through the convention at that point, because I think Fox Soccer Channel was broadcasting that night after it hit, and they talked about it for an hour on the convention floor, and that's all anybody was talking about after that. It was massive. It was a game changer. It was something that people didn't think could happen in this league at that point. In 2007, this was a very, very different league, and that was, I think, the number one thing MLS did to grow was opening up that door to do that kind of move, and then signing David Beckham to kick it off. I don't think they could have signed anybody better to do it. That was the absolute right move at the right time.
Chandler Creel on Nashville. He says the Nashville Stadium fallout reminds me of MLS Cup versus high school football disagreements from 2018. Agreements were made as well as people didn't like it, and efforts to back out of initial agreements were pushed.
Yeah, it has a feel like that. It has a feel with people completely on the outside who maybe don't like soccer, maybe don't want soccer in their city, and are trying to fight it. I think the politics play into this in a bigger way, and I think the previous administration and how it ended and their championing it before factors into this too. So it's a really complicated situation, but the city of Nashville is not going to come out looking good here if they go back on a deal that's been approved by the Metro Council. It's going to do long-term damage to business in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. Kurt McGirt is irrationally rooting for Team Chaos in the Nashville situation.
I mean, Team Chaos, I think, would end up with renovations at Nissan Stadium, and that could end up helping the Titans because, you always get that fear of, okay, that stadium is a little older at this point, and if the Titans play out their lease and they don't build a new one or they don't put a bunch of money into that one, the Titans might leave. And I think the arena downtown is getting closer to that kind of conversation. And in some ways, if they're forced to go to Nissan on a permanent basis, that could actually help the Titans stay. Okay, maybe. Maybe they build a stadium somewhere else. If I remember right, Cooper was part of the group who, even as things were moving along and starting to get approved at the fairgrounds, I think he was with a group that was wanting them to build it in a different part of Nashville. And I wondered if maybe there's business reasons for that. So does it get built somewhere else? That's always possible too. I don't expect there to not be a Major League Soccer team in Nashville. I think the litigation threat is going to keep that from happening on many different fronts and from many different groups. So
yes,
I don't expect that to happen. But if you're an owner or potential owner in Vegas or in San Antonio or San Diego or whoever else that right now is on the outside looking in, well, you're probably paying attention.
Jim Lepp had a couple of Friday thoughts. He says he's looking forward to tomorrow's stream. Would you like to plug that one more time?
5 p.m. Eastern Time. atlutd.com/live. Atlanta United and Elfsborg from the Swedish First Division. Kevin Egan and myself on the call.
Jim is also hopeful of a Darren Eales tweet about an addition to the side, parenthesis, Samba time, with a question mark.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little more subtle, but yeah, I'll be curious to see where that could go. Turn your notifications on. It's that time of year. You better have them on. Also on the stream tomorrow, if you're looking for a place to watch it, I have heard that the Brewhouse Cafe will have it on at least some of their 9,542 televisions. So
even more
if you're looking for a place to go watch it with Atlanta United fans, head over to the Brewhouse Cafe.
And we will be back there on Monday.
Yes.
A couple more in the queue. And Tafka's answer to your question is along the same lines of everybody.
Is? Yes. Cliffhanger from John. Oh,
yeah.
Wait a minute. I think he's back.
Yeah. Someone else who, I don't know, decided to break into my Skype line.
It's Rusty.
Yeah. Tafka, signing Beckham, basically creating the DP role. It was not a small matter financially to sign Beckham, but the move rolled away the stone for the small-time league label. It couldn't be ignored and led to a cascade of recognizable signings in a competitive model.
It kicked the door down and said this is not going to be I think they were up to maybe 13 teams at that point, which is crazy to think about. I mean, they were at 10 teams and then added Chivas USA, rest in peace, Chivas USA, and Real Salt Lake in 2005, and they added Toronto in 2007. I think Toronto came in by themselves because San Jose came in 2018, the reconstituted San Jose Earthquakes. So I think it was 13 teams when Beckham was introduced. The league has doubled today, and more's coming.
Eric Schwartz on the Nashville situation, he's proposing that they just turn into a road show. Take the team on a road trip throughout the state for home games, Vandy, Middle Tennessee, and book Neyland for a big match.
Be interesting. Be Tennessee SC and just play games all over. Be a regional team.
Could you imagine if they did it like if they played a game at Bristol Motor Speedway?
That whole thing was dumb. I'm sorry. That's dumb. No, I don't want to imagine that. The football game they played there, come on.
Tennessee and Virginia Tech, was it?
Yeah, you can pack a bunch of people into it, and you're like a mile away from the actual field. Nah, that's
Bumblebees
dumb.
in a washer dryer when it's NASCAR. I don't even know what it wanted to look like if you were in the building for football.
Yeah, no part of it. So no, they want to play at Neyland. They want to go over to Memphis and play a game. They want to play at Middle Tennessee. Okay, fine. I'm down with that, but skip the Speedway out of it. That was goofy.
Nick Brawley says the most important change to MLS over its existence to him has to be the creation of the DP. It's getting to the point now where teams maybe should have an extra DP slot, but it was a great addition to the league.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too. And I would, in that whole discussion about the designated player rule changing and wanting to, I think everybody took it as dialing it back. I think that was overstated. I would add a young designated player mandate. If you want to add a fourth, well, they got to be a young designated player. So you've got to have a young designated player. If you want to say you got to have 2 young designated players, I'm fine with that. But create the opportunity to add another as opposed to put limitations on what you have. I think the league's getting to that point.
And the last one in the queue for the morning, Daniel with a programming question.
Okay.
From the stream, he says, will you and Kevin be able to answer tweets during the match at like halftime and after the match?
I don't know yet. I mean, we'll have Twitter, so like it'll be there. I don't know what kind of halftime plans will be there. We won't be able to answer them on the stream after the match, but at halftime, maybe it might just be something where we're answering them afterwards on Twitter. So stay tuned. I mean, ask us questions, but we'll be seeing what you're seeing. So. That's the way it's going to play out. Looking forward to doing it. Looking forward to seeing a full match. The things we've said, I'm looking forward to seeing these new faces. I'm looking forward to seeing how the chemistry is developing. I'm looking forward to seeing how they defend. We've seen the attack, and it's looked pretty good. I want to see how the defense looks. And I want to see it against a team that is going to play 4-3-3 from what we can tell, and a team that is – maybe even further along in preseason than Atlanta is. So it'll be a good test.
Anything else on the table this morning before we bid adieu for another week, sir?
We have not talked about the second round draw of the U.S. Open Cup. That is done this week. MLS teams, half of them, less than half, come into the third round. Atlanta will come into the fourth round. Games in our region to keep an eye on: April 7th and 8th, April and 9th. April 7th, Charlotte Independence and Stumptown Athletic, which is kind of funny because they play at the same place. So the Independents are the hosts, but it's really just a game at the venue. It's the battle to see who gets to keep the venue, I guess. I don't know. Stumptown Athletic is in NISA, if you are not familiar with them. 3rd Division professional. Independents are 2nd Division professional. Tampa Bay Rowdies will be hosting the winner of South Georgia Tormenta 2, the USL League 2 version. They play the Villages SC, who we have seen many times in the tournament. Hopefully they are following all the rules, and they are making sure that their players are checked off and approved. The Villages play Tormenta 2 in the first round. Winner of that goes to Tampa Bay to face the Rowdies. North Carolina FC, they're playing the winner of the South Carolina United Bantams versus North Carolina Fusion U23. Chattanooga Red Wolves hosting Birmingham Legion on April 7th. That's an interesting one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Date to be determined because it depends on winners, but the Miami FC could be hosting Naples United FC or could be traveling to face Miami United FC U23s. That's a UPSL team, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they qualified through the open qualification process. They're one of the Florida qualifiers. They have a chance, if they beat Naples United, to host the Miami FC in the USL Championship.
Miami FC.
Charleston Battery hosting South Georgia Tormenta of USL League 1, the professional variety. That's a good test. That should be a fun one. Memphis 901 hosting Chattanooga FC of NISA. That's a good test. That'll be a very interesting one. That's the Southeast region. There's a very good chance Atlanta United will end up in that region. They could potentially end up in the Central region because there's some teams in our area who are there. Nashville United is a local Tennessee qualifier. They're playing Cleveland SC of the NPSL in the first round. The winner of that game in the second round goes to Louisville. The weird one in terms of regions, and it's going to happen because you have some regions that have fewer teams. Greenville Triumph get the opportunity to host USL Championship team New Mexico United. That's April 7th. That's a long trip for New Mexico, but that's a very intriguing matchup. Another long trip is El Paso Locomotive going up to face Detroit City of NISA.
Wow.
That'll be a wild atmosphere, and that's a long trip for Locomotive. Indy 11 hosting Michigan Stars FC of NISA. Andrew Carlton's Indy 11. And I think that's it for teams close to us. We've talked about North Texas Rayados quite a bit. If they beat the Denton Diablos of the NPSL, they'll have a chance to host OKC Energy. The home team is to be determined in that case. So I think North Texas would have to make sure they have a venue that meets Open Cup second round qualifications.
Yeah.
So that's the games in our region. Atlanta United would come in the fourth round. These are the second round matchups. You'll have some MLS teams come in the third round. Nashville would come in the third round. Miami comes in the third round. Orlando, I think, comes in the third round, if I'm not mistaken. And Open Cup is a lot earlier than we're used to. These are games April 7th, 8th, 9th in some cases. That third round game would be in early May, and I think Atlanta United would come in mid to late May, if I remember the calendar.
Nick Brawley in Under the Wire. He says he can't wait for next Saturday at Birmingham. He'll be at the pregame party at 10 a.m. for food, FIFA, and games. Any thoughts on how our supporters show up?
Well, I didn't know there was a pregame party for food and FIFA and
Legion announced it yesterday.
Okay,
that they're doing a thing, and it's within walking distance of BBVA Field. So it was good to see that.
Well, I might need to stop by the pregame party. That's interesting. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the supporters' plans are. I don't know how many tickets they were able to get, and I'm not sure what that looks like. So, don't know the details. But
Bessie Estelle Park, brought to you by the Birmingham City Council and Parks and Rec Board. Event will take place from 10 a.m. to 2. Live music, food, games, free soccer clinic ahead of the match that kicks off at 3:30. The press release from Birmingham Legion had a quote from Jay Heaps. The fan experience will feature a live musical performance from the Billy Gant Band, a gaming truck that will allow fans to play FIFA, a soccer skills clinic for kids 10 and under, food available from, among others, the Dirty Red, Vintage Comfort, and Heavenly Donuts food trucks.
Heavenly Donuts food truck sounds good.
Yes, it does.
I'm into this. Quick update from our friends in Aberdeen. They have made history today with the transfer window coming to a close. They have added their first ever Venezuelan international. Ronald Hernandez is joining the team on a 4.5-year deal. He's coming over from Stabæk in Norway. Played in the Copa America quarterfinal last summer against Argentina. He's a 22-year-old right back, played in the U20 World Cup final 2 years ago. And Aberdeen gets the deal done. 15 caps for Venezuela already. Played in that match against Argentina, and he's headed to Aberdeen. You know, I mean, this is a player. The relationship with Aberdeen and Atlanta United, could that have maybe helped with this? Potentially. He was playing in Europe, so it's not like he's completely unknown to Aberdeen, and they say that they've been following him for quite a while. Manager Derek McInnes has had him on his radar. But these are the kinds of moves that I think you'll see more of from Aberdeen, and potentially, if he does really well, maybe you see a move to Atlanta in a case like this. So keep an eye on Ronald Hernandez over at Aberdeen. That was just announced, and you're going to get more things just announced today, especially in Europe, with most windows closing in your major European leagues. Things will get very interesting as you get closer to the wire coming down. South American leagues, the windows will be open. A lot of them are open throughout February. Some even go into April, like Brazil. So it's not a situation where if you're following an MLS team and there's players in Europe that they're trying to get, it's not that they have to get them done by today, but the conversation could change after today in terms of who's available, because teams won't be able to go bring in replacements in Europe after today when their window closes. The window is about bringing players into your league. Players can still leave your league and go to a league that has a window that can bring players in. So that's where you're at. It's going to be a busy day. Maybe not a huge busy day in MLS world and in Atlanta's world, but it's going to be a busy day in the soccer world. We'll have Crumpets and Espresso later that will talk about some of the final deals that get done. We've got hashtag for the kids with John Aiken from Oglethorpe University and Brookhaven FC later today. We'll be on Twitter, and we've got a game tomorrow, 5 o'clock, atlutd.com/live. Atlanta United and Elfsborg from Sweden. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys can join us and watch and listen to the call with Kevin and myself. Looking forward to working with Kevin. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow.
European transfer window, or the England transfer window, 6 o'clock Eastern. So for those of you that are Crumpets and Espresso and Soccer Overdarians, it's the 6 o'clock dinner hour. And so I have Sky Sports News up already, so I'm keeping an eye on stuff, which includes Olivier Giroud staying at Chelsea. Yeah,
so as the I guess I'm the maitre d' of the Crumpets and Espresso show. We go with the brunch topics. I guess we'll have to push the closing time back a little bit, make sure that everybody can get their crumpets and their espresso filed with proper information about this window closing.
Manchester United had their £20 million bid for Bournemouth's Josh King rejected.
Alexis McAllister is going to Brighton from Boca. Now, he's been on loan first to Argentinos Juniors and then to Boca. He's being brought back, it appears. So he is leaving Boca and heading to England. I don't know if he's actually played before with Brighton. His story is fascinating. I mean, he's an Argentine international. You hear Alexis McAllister, and you're like, wait a minute, no, he's not an Argentine international. He is.
Hang on.
What? Hang on what?
Yeah, you hear his story and you're like, wait a minute, he's a what international? And you're like, yes, hang on, he is.
He is. So he is leaving Boca, and he posted his goodbye message to Boca supporters. So all kinds of things today. Keep up to date with all of it. Make sure you're following and have notifications on for all of it. Thanks for listening. If you want a hat, scarf, beanie, shoot us a message. We'll get you taken care of before the run to the post office later this afternoon. Thanks, y'all. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata.